If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, we are back. I'm excited like always. Can tell you whenever I speak to policemen, I feel at home. When I speak to a dog unit man, I feel even more at home. And I have a great amount of respect, of course, and especially for Warrant Officer Steve Leslie, who's sitting here right in front of me. But he's here to tell us a few dog unit stories as well as the search and rescue, which is one of the great experts on, and they've done sterling work, fantastic work. So you are very welcome here. Thank you for taking the time. I must tell you people here in the background, sometimes the people who come on the show really have to suffer to get here. Like this guy was stuck in traffic and he had to rush through traffic to get home so we can record him. All in good fun. So that makes us even more appreciative. Thank you, sir. Welcome here. Let us hear what you have on your heart about the operations.
Thank you very much. It's actually a privilege from our side as well to be on the show with you guys. As I said last time, I was with the search and rescue for the last 20 years of my career. And I just got a little bit of, excuse me for looking down as I'm reading off a piece of paper here. In the last 20 years, I worked with 6 different dogs in the search and rescue field. My last dog being B3779 Booty. Just to mention, we don't give the dogs the names. If that dog is born in the dog school, in the breeding section, and is born under B litter, all those pups are named with a B. And they go down in the alphabet. That's how the names come. And a lot of dogs are donated by public members with already been named. So we don't have the privilege of naming the dogs. We get the dogs with names already. My first dog, Zara, from 1996 until 2001, we did 466 searches. Of those, 148 were positive searches. When I say we had positive results, 14 of those positive searches were live people. We covered them before they succumbed. 9 of them would have died if the dog didn't find them in time. And then we go to my second dog, Yatos. He was with me from 2001 to 2005. We did 336 searches, 103 positive, and 3 live persons found. 2 would have died if the dog didn't find them in time. My third dog, Zazu, is a female, one of the few female dogs or bitches that I worked with. Actually was very, very awesome dog and loved water. Just a quick story, we had a fish dam in front of our home, and when she retired, we knew where to look for her. She would always be inside the fish dam, laying in the fish dam, because she had long hair, and in the summertime, she really chopped off with the heat, and she used to go lay in the fish dam to cool down. Also, when the kids and even friends came around and we were around the pool and that, she was very protective. And even the one lady told me that while she was swimming, Zazu jumped in the pool behind her and grabbed her on the hair and started pulling her to the side. So it was in her nature to be a rescue dog, you know. And with Zazu, I did 315 searches, 130 positive, and 35 live people. A lot of those would have also died if the dog didn't find them in time. And then for a short period of a year, I had my fourth dog, James. I did 44 searches with him, 4 were positive, and 6 live people. James died in the kennel. At that stage, we had to leave our dogs in the kennels at the dog units. And I got a call to say that there's something wrong with the dog. I rushed there and rushed him to the vet, but unfortunately it was too late. It's a common fault with German Shepherds that their stomach twist. Because they get especially dogs that are very excitable. And, you know, when people walk past the kennels and getting other dogs out to go and work and that, these dogs jump up and down, and the dog had eaten and his stomach was full. And that's all we can suspect, that people walk past or other handlers walk past with their dogs and he jumped up and down and then causing the stomach to twist. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him to the vet on time. So, you know, he died before they could operate and twist his stomach back. There have been successful times where they have changed, you know, swapped the stomach back around. I don't know the medical term, but it's quite a extensive operation. And so I only had him for a year, and then I sat for a period of time with no dog from 2009 January until 2009 June. For 6 months, I sat without a dog, but I still assisted with searches. In that period, I did 3 positive searches, and I did recover 3 live people on my own without the dog. Then I was given another dog by the name of Lex from 2009 to 2014. I did 443 searches with him, 145 positive searches, and found 12 live people. Then I got my last dog, my 7th and last dog, Putti, from 2014 to 2016 when I went on retirement. And he also went on retirement with me. He did 158 searches, 79 positive searches, 8 live persons found. In the total, with all the dogs that I worked with in search and rescue, it's 1,768 searches. 622 were positive searches, positive results. 78 live persons rescued by the dog. Another part of the search and rescue field that I was in, I'll talk about a little bit later as well when I deal with the drownings, is that do talks at schools and other places where, you know, like youth clubs and churches and things like that. And I gave 446 talks and demos at the different schools. We've had many appearances on the television news channels, which represented the police in a positive way, and we won many awards and for the positive cases that we worked. We were recognized. I must say that we were recognized and given awards and things like that. And that all came to an end in September of 2016. Like I said about the drownings, was the many cases that we do, the most, well, I would say more than half of the cases that we do, unfortunately, in our area in the Eastern Cape, is we deal with drowning. And, you know, in most cases, there's more than one child that drowns, because what happens is the child goes to the river or the dam with friends, and then they get into difficulty or fall in or get pushed in sometimes even. And another child tries to go and to rescue them, to help them, and they can't swim, and they also drown. So where we had 1 victim, we have now 2. And I've actually found them, you know, because the water, most of these cases, it's actually frightening. The water is less than 2 meters deep where these children are drowning. And we get there first with the dog, and we search, and the dog will point out the area for us, like I explained in the last video. He reacts to the gases coming to the surface. And then we walk where the dog is showing. And most of the time, before the divers even go in, because the water is so shallow, we're feeling something with our feet. So, when you bump a submerged body underwater, it moves. So we know here's something, and we reach down and we recover the body ourselves without the diver going down because of the water being so shallow. And I've already recovered. We actually found the two children were actually clutched together. They were actually holding each other, and they both went down, most probably. So that's the sad part of it. But because of that, I started an initiative where I used to, in the talks at school, not only about getting lost and what to do to save yourself and show them how the dog finds missing people and things like that, I brought in a thing that I called Operation Safe Swim. I try to teach as many children as possible, if someone is drowning, don't jump in and try and get them out. If you can't swim yourself, you're not a strong swimmer. Use something like a branch, your belt, or a shirt, or any item that you can use that they can reach for without pulling you, and you can stay on the side and pull them out. And I must say that kicked off quite well, and the divers, they're still using the Operation Safe Swim and doing talks and things like that at different schools. And they, especially in the rural areas where it's needed the most. But interesting thing about the drownings as well is you're dealing with people in the rural area. Now, for example, when we go in the former Transkei and you get to a scene where there's a drowning, you'll only find men at the scene. They don't allow children or women to come to the scene. That's just their tradition. They keep everybody else. But now, when you're doing a drowning in the urban areas where there's the squatter camps and things like that, you've got hordes of mixed people, and they are all wanting to see what's going on. So there's two different scenarios. Also, in the rural area, you're dealing a lot with people that still have a strong connection to ancestors and Sangomos. Sangoma is a witch doctor or medic in Afrikaans, a toer doctor. And the one scene we went to between Butterworth and Aduchwa, a young boy had drowned in a quarry. And when we got to the scene, all the men were sitting there, and then we approached them and said, look, we come to recover the body. And they didn't want us to recover the body. They said to us that this child had drowned and he's gone down and he's speaking to the ancestors. And when he's finished speaking to the ancestors, he's going to come back, and he'll come back as a Sangoma. And of course, that's completely nonsense, not true at all. And I was approached by quite a sad-looking guy, and he came to me and he said, sir, I'm the father of this child. I'm a teacher in Johannesburg, and I would like you to recover the body of my child, because I'm not really into this story with my father and my other brother saying that the child is there. It's been a day and a half already that the child's been under the water in the dam. So I thought of a plan, and I had a guy that was with me to interpret to them in their own language better than I could. To tell them, listen, we're going to send the diver down. If the diver finds that the people or the victim is talking to the ancestors, he will leave them behind. And if he's not, then we'll bring the body out. And after a big powwow this day, they accepted my proposal. Now it's zero visibility. You can't see your hand in front of you. There's no way in hang that you're gonna that there's going to be other people under the water talking to this guy. So the diver went down where the dog had shown, and brought the body up. And the father was so grateful. But he was also angry at his father and his brother, because this poor child had been in the dam, as I said, for a day and a half, and the water creatures, the crabs and things like that, had actually started disfiguring the body. And he was very upset about that. So, you're dealing with people that's got a lot of suspicion. We went to another scene, also in a Transkei somewhere, where they said someone had drowned. A woman reported that she saw this guy walking between the reeds and then he disappeared. So she went and told the local police. The local police called us out. We went out as a team and got to the scene. And also the people were, no. He's going to talk to the ancestors, and he's going to come back with Sagoma. And while we were there busy and trying to calm down everybody and things like that, we heard another commotion on the far side of the dam. And the guy came out between the reeds. And they said, no, that's him. He's, this is his guy, and he's got white clay smeared on his face. And now everybody in the village must give him a goat, because he's now come back from drowning, and he's going to become a Sagoma, because he's spoken to the elders and he's spoken to the ancestors and things like that. But what this guy did is he made sure someone was there when he went to the dam, and he disappeared between the reeds. And after everybody arrived on the scene, he made his appearance again out of the reeds to say that now he's come back from being under the dam. So yeah, there's a lot of suspicion, and there's a lot of, you've got to be tactful, because you're working with other people's beliefs and things like that. But sometimes it's so unreal. It's just so difficult. Also in working with drownings, we have a lot of floods. There's quite a few major rivers, and when they do come down, they come down in flood quite strong. And people try and cross them. They go across in the morning and the water wasn't so high. And there's low water bridges. It's like temporary bridges. It's not, it's Africa. It's not tarred roads. It's gravel, and it's 4x4 world. And they go across these bridges, and they come back, and maybe even at night, because they're coming back from the towns to go back to the rural area, to their houses. And we came through here this morning, we can go back again. But in the meantime, the river had rained in the mountains, and the river had risen, and they try and cross. And unfortunately, that's when vehicles get washed away, or people try and walk across and they get washed away. We called out for many, many scenes like that. The one was quite horrific. There were people in the back of a van, what we call a bakkie. They had a canopy on the back, and there were 3 people inside, and there were 8 females, women in the back of the bakkie, and they were returning to their home. And they got to the river, and these people said to them, don't go to the driver, don't go through. No, he can make it, he can drive through. Unfortunately, they got to the middle of the river, and it started moving the vehicle off the bridge, and they 3 in the front managed to jump out and get out, but the vehicle was washed with the people in the back. We don't know if it was locked, because when we did recover the vehicle at a later stage, with some of the bodies still inside, the doors were open. So I suspect it wasn't locked, but the force of the water against the back they couldn't open it from the inside. So they were washed off the bridge into the river, and all 8 of them drowned. That was not a very nice scene. It was in also, as I said, in the Transkei, and we had all the news, the TV news, and everybody had come out to the scene because they'd heard about it. And it was all on the news, and it was still pouring with rain when we recovered these bodies in the black. I can still see it in my mind, the black body bags, 7 of them laying there on the bank, and the one body we only found the following day further down the river, about 10 k's. The drownings is mostly people's own fault. People take chances. They don't underestimate the strength of water. And, you know, as I said, it's a human factor. They've been through, they can do it again. So let's go. But with this last floods that they had in KZN, in KwaZulu-Natal, many of the people that drowned, the floods came at night, and they had built their shelters and their houses in the floodplain. And that's why there were so many people that had drowned, because the water just came and it just took away everything. I'm just trying to explain that in some situations you get where there are a large number of people that drown in the flood and disaster situation. Now, some of the cases that I've done, Chris, that stick out is in Beacon Bay in East London. Got a report from a member of the public, phoned the Beacon Bay police and said there's a body laying in the bush. This person that phoned said he'll wait at the shop, an OK Bazaar shop there in the main road for the police. And of course, the police took a while to get there. And when they did arrive, he wasn't there anymore. So they called me out and said, this is the story. I said, well, all I can do is, there's this bush across the road from the shopping center. I'll take the dog and I'll search the bush and see if I can find anything. If it's a body, the dog's going to react, you know, we'll find him quite quick. I started searching the bush. There's a lot of pathways through the bush. And then the dog reacted and took off. And I did explain in the previous video that how the dog finds a person, and he'll make contact and then come back and fetch me and show me what he's found. And we found the guy. It wasn't a body. The guy was still alive, but he was badly burnt. He had got in the argument with other people that were staying in the bush, and they threw a flammable liquid over him and set him alight. He's badly burnt. He had been laying in agony for 2 days in the bush, and I called an ambulance and rescue guys, rescue personnel to come and assist me, and we managed to take him out of the bush and take him to hospital, where he survived. He recovered from the burn wound. And I had a chat with him, and that's how I knew what happened, because he told me exactly, you know, he had got into an argument and these people threw he said petrol, but I don't know if it was, it could have been spirits or anything, methylated spirits. And, but, you know, he just left to die in the bush. Lucky this passerby saw him, but I think when the police arrived, he didn't want to get more involved, you know, so he made a break and got away. Also, in the same place in Beacon Bay, we had an old gentleman. He was 86, an old ex-farmer, Mr. van Sonnenberger, from German origin. And he was a very active 86-year-old. And he said to his wife, he's going to chop the bushes that are growing over the wall. At the back of the house, there's a bush, and he was going to chop that down. So she just said he's a stubborn old man, and left him and let him carry on. At 11 o'clock, he didn't come home for tea, which he normally does. So she thought, okay, well, he's still busy. At lunchtime, he didn't come home. So then she's got worried and phoned the family, and the family contacted the police, and I was contacted. I went out there. And at the back of the house, as I said, there was a bush and a ravine, and sent my dog down, started searching. And the dog wears a special harness, special collar. And we went for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I heard somebody talking. Oh, you must be a police dog. So the dog had made contact with the older man, and he was laying on his back. He had slipped in a stream of water, and he was laying off in the water, off out of the water. And he was quite shaken up, and he couldn't get up, and he had hurt his hip. And I also there called the ambulance, and we carried him out of the bush, and happy ending. But his wife was very upset with him. She said, you were a very stubborn old man. You didn't want to listen to me. I told you not to cut the bushes down. Yeah, so, but we were happy that he was found alive. Also, from an area where you should know quite well, near King Williamstown, Yellowwoods, it's just outside King Williamstown. I had a 14-year-old guy that him and his friends went into the veld, and they were eating a type of wild berry. Now, apparently, I've heard that if you eat too much of this stuff, you can become delirious. And 3 of the guys came back, and the 4th guy didn't, the 14-year-old. And only that night at about 10 o'clock, when he hadn't returned home, then his parents started getting worried, and then they asked the other boys where he was. They said no, they left him in the bush. So I started searching for him, and after a long search of about, I would say 5 hours, I found him quite a distance from where they said they saw him last to where we found him with the dog. He was actually stuck fast in thorn trees. There's a lot of these thorn trees that grow there. He actually hooked himself up in his clothes, and he couldn't get out any further. I think being in a delirious state, he just decided to run or walk away. He got hooked up in the night in the dark, and also found him and brought him back. And then I spoke about as well in the last one with the alcohol plays a big role in missing people, and also fishermen, the fisherman's tale, as I call it. Fishermen like to keep something to keep them warm in their bag. These guys went fishing at a place near us called Bats Cave, and it's near between Nahoon and Eastern Beach in East London. And it's very, you can't get there with the vehicle. You have to walk quite far down the beach and through the sea bush to get to the fishing spot. And they were fishing, and they had a good couple of drinks to keep them warm. And the one guy said, no, look, he's going to take a walk back to the car. He's tired. He wants to sleep. And he left them, and he walked in the direction back through the bush to the car. The morning came, and they went back to the car after fishing, and he wasn't there. So they, looked around, and they couldn't find him. Called the police, and contacted us, the search and rescue. Went out there and used the dog to search for him. And in the sea bush, the dog found him sleeping. He had gotten lost going back to the car, and being a little bit tired from the firewater, as I call it, he fell asleep in the bush. Luckily, it wasn't a very cold night. It was in the summertime. And that's where the dog actually woke him up. He got one hang of a fright to the dog smelling on him. And she said, no, I'm fine. I said, yes, you're fine, but your friends are worried sick about you. Let's go back. A lot of cases with missing people, unfortunately, as I said earlier about Mr. van Sonnenberger, there was also another old German, there's a big German, let me explain, there's a big German population, people that came from Germany, German settlers that came to East London area, and the names of the places in the Eastern Cape are like Potsdam, Hamburg, Brownford or something like that. You know, there's a lot of German history, settler history in this area. And there's a lot of people that have come from that line. But this Mr. Van Plotto was his surname. He lived on a farm quite close to Carmel. And he liked to go walking on the farm. Took his dog and, you know, go for a walk. So his daughter that we were staying with and said he mustn't go far and things like that. The night he didn't return, the dog returned, but he didn't return. And we got the call that this car's missing. The farming community had mobilized. They had a lot of farmers and laborers from the farms and that to help search. So we searched through the night, and, you know, the dog made contact a few times to something, and he came to me, and when he took me back, there was nothing there, and I was getting worried now. The dog, is the dog making a mistake, or what is the, you know, what's the problem? In the morning, went right through from, as I say, from about 10 o'clock until 5 o'clock. We were searching, and there was an open patch of veld. It wasn't bush anymore, and the dog took off again. And when the farming community saw the dog moving, everyone was behind the dog, chasing on. I was so tired, I just walked. And they found the guy. And he wanted to actually assault us with his stick, what he had, his walking stick. What happened is that he had been a prisoner of war in Russia. When the Germans invaded Russia, he was captured and he was a prisoner of war, and he thought the whole night passed, and he thought that we were the Russian soldiers with dogs searching for him to capture him. You know, that he had escaped from the prison, and now the Russians were looking for him, and they were the Russians, and we were going to recapture him. But his daughter and his son explained to him in German that, you know, these guys are here to help, and he settled down and he was taken back. Unfortunately, a lot of cases, dementia, Alzheimer's, with missing people. Another case we had in Scenery Park, where a 76-year-old lady and her husband, they avid fishermen, what is the right word? They would walk down through the bush, down to the Buffalo River, and they would go and fish. And this day, the gentleman, also in his 70s, and the lady was 76, they were walking, and she said she's a little bit tired. He's going to sit down. He must carry on. She'll catch up to him. He went down and he went to fish there. They spend the night at the river normally, and then the next morning he came back. She never joined him, and he thought, okay, she's turned around and gone back home. When he got to where she was, it wasn't there, and he went back to the house and said, look, to his children, where's the granny? And they said, no, well, she went with you. They said, no, well, she never got to the river. So they all went out and started looking for her and couldn't find her. I was called out and I went to the scene, started searching for her. It was very cold, it was raining. And while I was searching, I was finding the dog was pointing out items of clothing. When you get hypothermia, when you get very, very cold, your mind starts telling you you're getting hot, you can take off your clothes. It confuses you. Your brain starts confusing. And this is what she was doing. When we found her, she was in her onderrok. What's a petticoat? What do you call it? Petticoat or whatever, yeah. I wrapped her in I took off my raincoat, I put her in a wrap in my raincoat, and I told the family, just keep her there. I went as far as I could with the 4x4 vehicle to get too close to them, and then put her in the vehicle with one of the family members and rushed her to hospital, because I could see she was shaking uncontrollably because of the hypothermia. And then again, she just sitting there waiting or to resting, she just became confused and didn't know where she was and didn't know how to get out there. And she just started walking and getting lost further and further, which is the problem with missing people. Many of the cases that we do not always end in the ones I've just mentioned now are what I call the happy ending ones. You know, there's a lot of cases where we get there and then we find a body, and the person has died, been gone too long and been lost too long. And then another thing that affected me quite a bit was the cruelty of people, of humans, the human cruelty. Babies being thrown in rivers, just left on the side of the river to in the bush to the elements. A lot of cases like that. Case where a father, that same bridge of death that we spoke about last time, Van Staden's bridge. A father and two children, he took them with him. He threw the children over the bridge before jumping himself. And the bodies were found apart. That shows you the one child tried to run away after she saw what the father was doing with the little boy. It was a little boy and little girl. And she was found further on, and of course he also jumped over the bridge, off the bridge, and committed suicide. But you sit and you think about these things, and it's really affects a person in a way. But you try and think, how can a person do things like this? You must be gone so far that there's no hope. The situation with little children being left, surely there's other means. If you can't look after a child, hand the child in to the social workers, or explain to them you can't provide for the child, and they will take the child and put him in an orphanage or something like that. You leave the child in the elements, it's so cruel. It's very cruel. I haven't got much more than that at the moment, Chris. I don't know if you want me to carry on, or we can talk a little bit more about other cases.
I just want to ask you a question quickly. When you find a body as a search and rescue team, you are still policemen, and you will not be in the dark unit unless you are, of course, quite experienced. Do you treat that scene as a crime scene, or is it no need for the detectives? You know what happened there.
No, that's a very good question. It's all it's unnatural death, so it's all has to be investigated. You know, even if you know the person's had dementia or Alzheimer's and he's got lost, you don't know what actually happened that he died. He could have been murdered or something like that. So we treat all bodies as a crime scene. It gets protected until the necessary people get there, forensics, and they do the investigation. We just step back, hand in our statement of what we found, what did the body look like, things like that. And then they carry on with the investigation. Case in point, just brought back a memory. There were some Zimbabwean guys working on a farm here close to East London. And they were staying on this farm and doing farm labor. And that night there was an argument about food. And they all ganged up on this one guy because they said he had stolen some of their food, and they actually murdered him. They stabbed him. And then they decided they're going to take him and bury him down by a river in the river bank. So the farmer actually reported it because he said there were 7 of these guys and now there's only 6. And they're in the middle of the sticks, in the middle of nowhere. And they asked, where's this person that's missing? And they said, no, he's gone. He's left. He's not, doesn't want to work anymore. But then he looked at their place where they stay and he saw all his belongings and everything. He had his ID book and his passport and everything like that. He had it with him. So he said, the guy's not going to just, you know, he smelt that there was something, he smelt the rat. There was something wrong going on here. And we were called out with the local police. They weren't there. The suspects weren't there. They were working on the farm, and the farmer took us to the place where they stayed, and I started searching from there with the dog. Of course, the dog started doing a general search, see if we can smell a cadaver, the body, and proceeded about 2 kilometers down to this little river. And in the bank of the river, the dog started digging on the side. And as soon as I saw he started digging and there was like a blanket, they had wrapped the body in a blanket. I could see a piece of the blanket. I stopped the dog. And then I rewarded him and took him away and contacted the local police were there, but then they had to call the detectives and the forensics and that to come out. So they had actually murdered this guy for a tin of food or whatever and buried him in the embankment of the river. And that's, I had to go and give evidence in that case in court. One of the few cases that normally they don't lead that we have to go to court. You know, you just find the body and that's it. But sometimes we do have to go to the High Court and explain it, because this was a murder case. A lot of cases also, people go missing from their house. They had a case in Berlin that's between East London and King Williamstown. There was a lady that stayed in a house on a plot, a small holding, and she had gone missing. But when the family and all the friends went there, the food was still on the stove. You know, it looked like the person had left in a hurry. But there was no forced entry on the house. And they had big dogs, guard dogs or watchdogs. And so I said to the police captain that was with me, I said, look, who's ever been in this house? Because we could see also there was a sign of a bit of a struggle on the bed. You know, they knew that the lady was alone. They knew that the dogs won't bite them because the dogs knew them. And so I started searching the area as well, just to see if there was any shallow grave or anything like that. Searched also for approximately a K, found the lady under bushes that she had been murdered. She'd been raped in the house, taken in the bushes and murdered. That case as well, I had to go and give evidence because it was a gardener that worked for the lady. And he denied everything, of course. And they wanted to know where the condition of the body and where it was found and all that type of stuff. So I thought I'd get away from giving evidence in court when I went to search and rescue. But you're still a policeman, So just on that as well, the people think, yeah, you search and rescue, and what do you do if you see a crime? Your dog can't run after the guy and arrest him and things. I said, oh, well, I'm still a policeman. If a crime happens in front of me, I'm going to act. I'm going to arrest the person or try and arrest him to the best of my ability, which has happened quite a few times. I mean, you're driving in a marked police vehicle. Those got big search and rescue written on the side. It's still a police vehicle. So if the public see you in the vehicle and you don't respond to a crime, that's not a good image for the police. Oh, I was just sorry.
While you're taking a sip, I have another question for you regarding search and rescue, if you don't mind, sir. I've noticed that you haven't mentioned at any stage the air wing of helicopters coming out to assist. So I have to ask you, what does it take for a police helicopter or Air Force helicopter to be drafted into to assist you people on the ground? Would that be done just willy-nilly, or is it actually a serious thing?
Good question. In East London, when I started in 1996, there wasn't an air wing available. The closest air wing was in Port Elizabeth. And if we had to get the air wing to come and assist us, there's a lot of paperwork. And you want the helicopter now. You need it now, But you first had to go through the channels, as I say, and you had to apply for this, and you had to make phone calls, and you had to follow the steps. In 96, as I said, there was a private air company, helicopter company in East London. It was called Aviation. It was owned by Mr. Brian Katz, a good friend of mine. And he had a contract with the health department at that stage, doing mercy flights and rescue with the helicopter. And we met at a joint operations meeting where the different role players get together, have a meeting once a month, all the role players, heads of different departments, disaster management. And I got speaking to him, and he said, look, man, all you do is you tell me you need a helicopter. He had Alouette helicopters at that stage. The Alouette from the border war, and a beautiful machine. I love them. I love the sound of those rotors. That's the second love, the helicopters. Why? It's because I used to fly so much with them. I enjoy flying because Brian helped us tremendously. We recover bodies in inaccessible places, rescues, flying us all over the place. And because the police helicopter wasn't available, though the helicopter was seconded to the government, it was on a government contract. So the police, being a government department, had to ask the Department of Health if they could assist with the helicopter. And there was never any hassle. They were very forthcoming because it was a service to the community, especially in the rural areas of the former Transkei and Ciskei. And so we made use of that helicopter quite a lot. Then the air wing at Bulembu, that's just outside King Williamstown as well. They opened the SAP air wing there, and we had our own choppers at last. And it wasn't weekly, it was daily that we used helicopters, especially in the summertime, in the busy time with all the drownings and things. You had to justify the cost. You had to justify the expenses. You know, I wouldn't just fly because it's nice to fly there where you could drive with a 4x4 vehicle and pick up the body or recover the body from the river or whatever. But if the person had been washed down a flooded river and you had to go kilometers to search, and in inaccessible places where I mean gorges, deep gorges, even you couldn't even go with a swiftwater craft, because if you had to get into trouble going through those gorges, and you yourself become a victim. So that's where the helicopters came in, and they played a tremendous role. They still do. I used to fly as much as I could. The guys said, you know, you should actually become a pilot. But I really enjoyed it. It was tremendous work with him. And look, we've had some hairy things happen while flying. You know, in the rural areas, people put up wires where there's no wires should be, especially in gorges and things like that. They've put a wire across that gorge, and the pilots call them spinnerakke, spider webs, because you can't see them, and you know, until you're really on top of them. Or if the sun catches them right, you know. So you've got to always be the pilot, and then the ALO, the air law enforcement officer, as they call him, is the guy that's the like a co-pilot or the winch operator. They've got to keep a lookout for that all the time. They do the flying and the lookout thing. We do the looking on the bottom to see if we can see the bodies and things. Or if we see something, we got to talk. Got to mention it. When we did training with the winch, with the hoisting of the dog and the handlers up, there was a female pilot, and she said to me, I was operating the winch, winching my friend up with his dog. And she said, listen, warrant officer, I can't see what's happening underneath me. You got to talk to me all the time. Tell me what's happening underneath. He said, you must have verbal diarrhea. You mustn't stop talking. If I'm so many feet from the guy, you must tell me. I can't guess. You must keep on talking. And from that training, you know, you become a team and you operate. Like I was saying, the weather plays an important role, as you know. The weather changes quite drastically. We've already gone to do a scene with a helicopter, and coming back, we had to what they call taxi hover. That's where you're right near the ground. You put down and see where you are, and then you hover to the next spot to get back to the base. You know, it's the cloud cover becomes so low that sometimes the guys, we've already slept over in places because the weather changes. You can't get back. But helicopters, without them, the job would have been much more difficult. Helped us a hang of a lot. The time saved in traveling. To give you an example, in the beginning, we used to get calls to attend complaints of a drowning in Umtata, which is 210 k's from East London. Get the team together of divers, plus myself and the dog, and go to there. It's going to take us approximately 3 hours to get there. We get to the scene, we do the search, and 20 minutes on a scene. Search with the dog, dog points, diver goes down, diver recovers body, hand over body to local authorities, and we go back 3 hours trip back to East London. Where with you fly with a helicopter, it takes you an hour there and an hour back. So it's saving on manpower, saving on time. I'll just use that as an example. I wouldn't use a helicopter just to go and attend a normal drowning. But where the drowning is in an inaccessible place, or down a cliff or waterfall, something like that, then we would use the helicopter. Also mountain recoveries, mountain rescues. To get up to the top, to where the person has fallen, can take a long time to climb there, a long time to get there. Where the helicopter can drop you off on the top and you work down, it's much easier. You work from the top down than to go up all the way, carrying all your equipment as well. Ropes and all that type of stuff. And also the stretcher, this Stoke stretcher to recover the body or the injured person. So they play a major role in rescue. Love them to bits. Couldn't do without them. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, I want to ask you, sir, it's a bit gruesome, but how hard is it, sir, to get the body into a body bag, especially if it's drowned and a bit bloated?
Yes, what we do is we put the body in the bag in the water, which makes it easier to go in the body bag, because the body bags we use are like a big bag. The one end is open, and it opens, and that's where we slide the body in. The rest is all sealed up. But what we do is when we take the body out of the water and put it on the side, then of course the forensic and that want to have a look at the body, and they cut that body bag open so they can see injuries and that type of stuff, and then they place it into one of their own zip-up body bags to remove it. It's not easy. Also, when you're on the side of a mountain and you're finding a body, and the helicopter's waiting for you, what happens is they take you there, they drop you off on the top, you climb down if you can without using the ropes. You're on the side of the mountain, you bag it, we call it bag it. We bag the body on the side of the mountain, and then we radio the helicopter to come back. We put the straps around the body, in the body bag, put the straps around. There we use 2 body bags. We use the normal black one that I said we slip the body in, and then we use a canvas, thick canvas, stronger body bag, zip body bag. Put the black bag inside that one, and then put straps around it. The helicopter will come as close as possible, lower the hoist, and then they'll hoist the body up to the helicopter and take it back to the top of the mountain or to where the vehicles are, drop it off there, and then come and fetch us and take us off the mountain. But at that time, we have taken the photographer, the police photographer, with us to the scene, the detective with us, that he can record and take photographs and all that type of stuff. So they don't have to, we don't have to wait for that, just because we've got to get there, take the body as quick as possible and move him out, because winds change, weather changes, you've got to do the job. Otherwise, it's a long trek while walking up and down the mountain with the body. People, they might think that it's cruel, or that we got no feeling, but policemen have a way of coping with death and gruesome scenes. Talk to each other, and we also joke. No disrespect to the dead person or the dead person's family, please. It's just a way of releasing the tension, releasing that gruesome. I've spoke to the guys. I said, look, don't keep it to yourself. let's speak about it. You know, talk to me, I'll talk to you. It also helps if you've got a caring family. You know, you can be in a relationship where your spouse doesn't want to know nothing about your job. You're not interested. You also, this might sound also gruesome as well. You also in such situations where, unfortunately, the body fluids and stuff do get on your clothes. Though you wear protective gloves and things like that, you still, there's still a possibility, and it does happen, that body fluids, blood and other fluids, especially from victims of drowning, decomposing matter, do get on your clothes and your boots and things like that. And when you get home, you're not smelling too well. And a person that's not used to that smell, you might not even think it's bad. You know, you smell it a little bit, but a normal person or one that doesn't work with that situation will smell it straight away. It's overpowering, strong smell of decomposing. And if they don't understand it, you know, I can tell you that I've heard of guys that have were told when they get home they must get undressed at the door. They don't come inside with their boots and with their clothing. And also when they want to talk about the cases and the scenes that they've attended, then the people, their wife or spouse will say, look, I'm not interested. I don't want to know what you've done. I don't want to know. And that for that person, for me, it's a way of defusing the situation, de-stressing myself, because I can talk about it. I always used to tell people when I spoke at these charity organizations and like the Lions and the Rotary clubs and things like that, they used to invite me to come give them talks as well. And I always used to tell them, you know, thank you very much that I can talk to you about this, because it's a way of, though I'm remembering what I saw, but it's a way of getting it out. I'm not keeping it inside. I'm not bottling it up. It's not staying in my mind, and it's not causing me to have PTS, post-traumatic stress. And that's how I feel. And the guys, like I said, they joke between each other, and you know, someone might have made a little bit of a slip up and slipped on the side of the mountain and fell on his behind or something like that, and got a muddy bum and things like that. And then when you get to the chopper, you tell the chopper pilot to give him a bit of a hassle because he's got a dirty backside. He's not allowed to sit on the seats and things like that. You know, just make jokes and things like that, just to diffuse the situation, to take your mind off of it. So, yeah.
But I want to ask you from the other side, sir. I can imagine, well, when you bring this body out, there might be family members waiting, and the body might be decomposed. And as you said, if it's under the water, the crabs and the little fishes and things, they do get to the body. It is quite gruesome, especially if it's somebody who is a loved one. Now, is there a duty on the police to protect the body, in the sense from not allowing the family to see the body?
That is correct. You know, it's difficult in the rural areas. The family, they understand. The nearest relative will come by himself. You know, we tell him you don't have to. You can go to the mortuary and identify the person at the government mortuary, or you can now if you want to. We don't want to force you, just to make sure that it is the person that drowned. You know, it might be another body down. So we do that, and also we try and keep the people far away as possible. In the rural areas, like I say, they handle it themselves, the community. No women, no children. They form a line, and nobody's allowed to come close. But now, as I said, in the urban areas, you've got everybody, and everybody's got cell phones these days, and everybody wants to take a video. And sometimes this family hasn't even been notified that this person is drowned or died. And it's this all over social media before the police have informed the family. And that was quite a hassle. But so we try and protect it as much as we can. Guys, some of the divers, if they finish diving and things, they'll hold up a body bag. They keep the body out of sight until it's covered up again. And that's another reason as well why we put the body in the bag in the water, because then you're bringing out a bag, you're not bringing out a body as such. Sometimes you have to bring out the body because you can't put the body in the body bag, and like maybe fast flowing water thing, the body's hooked on a tree in the fast flowing stream of water. Then you have to take it off and actually swim it to the side. There are cases where we have to do that, but we try and like you said, we're dealing with somebody's loved one, we're dealing with somebody's child, somebody's husband, somebody's wife. You've got to be as human as possible and as caring as possible. But you can also get into a situation where you become too involved. That's why the guys, once you've handed over that body to the next role players, the forensics and the detectives and that, you pack up your kit, you step away, pack up your kit, put your dog back in the kennel of the vehicle, pack away your stuff, get dressed, get out of the wetsuits, and then tell the guy, you can get the statement by me tomorrow in my office, or I can bring it to you, and you leave the scene. Because as soon as you get involved with family, and then the family's crying, and it works more on you as a person. But since you've done your job, we out of here. You know what I mean? You don't want to get too involved.
You had any problems with the press?
I made it my point. Actually, I tramped on a few toes. I had a very, very big and very good working relationship with the press, because in our field of work, it's not crime related as such, but in our field of work of rescue, I'm the rescuer. I'm the person doing the rescue. I know exactly what's happened. I know exactly what we did. Now I'm not allowed to talk to the press. I must give that information secondhand to another press officer, and that press officer will write a press statement and then send it to the different news agencies, newspaper or TV or whatever. So I thought to myself, if I speak firsthand to the press, they're getting the right story. They're getting from the horse's mouth, actually. As I said, I tramped on a few toes because the press officers are saying I'm taking over their job and that type of stuff. I said, I'm not. I'm just explaining what happened at the scene. You can say your bit as well if you want to, but he's talking to me. I always say, rather have the press on your side than have them against you. And it's a good public relations situation for the police. The police are helping people. They are recovering loved ones' bodies. They're finding missing people still alive. And people love a story where dogs are involved. I don't know if you agree with me. If the public are amazing when it comes to supporting the police where the dogs are involved in rescues and things like that. And because of what they see and they read in the newspaper, that's how I got in, because of that. That's how I got invited to speak at these different places, because they see one of the Steve Leslie from Canine Search and Rescue said him and his dog Zara recovered an 86-year-old lady or whatever. So they see, and then they want to know more, and they invite you, and it's a building a relationship between the public and the police. And well, I was never ever charged, though I was sternly warned a few times not to do it. But you know, there's ways and means of doing it as well. Make a call and don't mention my name in the message. Yeah.
Off the record, as they say.
Off the record, as they say. Correct, yes.
But it occurred to me, though, that in other countries, search and rescue is not a state function. It's a private thing, like the National Sea Rescue Institute. What's your feelings on this? Do you think this should be privatized or perhaps assisted by private guys, perhaps police reservists?
I agree with you to a point that other countries, even the fire departments, have search and rescue dogs. 9/11 and things like that, we saw a lot of search and rescue dogs coming from the fire departments. Some police departments in America do have search and rescue dogs, or cadaver dogs, as they're called, for searching for bodies. You must remember, in America, they have dogs, or the first world countries, but let's put it that way, they have dogs that are trained for specific tasks. You have a cadaver dog that finds buried bodies. You have a dog that finds missing people alive. You have a dog that finds missing people dead. You have a dog that finds people that have drowned in water, rivers or dams. Different dogs. South Africa, we had to train the dogs to do all 5 of those tasks. Because of budget constraints, as I said before, we were a small group of guys. They still are a small group of guys. The search and rescue section, since it started in 94 until now, there's only been about 65 guys trained. And I'm speaking under correction. That was the latest figures that I had when I was still in the but what I hear and what I've been talking to the guys, not many more have been trained, not many more courses have been done. So to answer your question about volunteers and things like that, you must remember, in South African law, it still remains an unnatural death if a person is found in the veld or whatever. So it is a police task. So even if you are there as a volunteer or a reservist, the police still have to come and investigate. So that's why the police train the search and rescue dog. That there's a policeman finding the body or finding the person, and then you can just carry on with the investigation. The other point is too, a lot of the people that volunteer to do this, you know, they want the dog trained to find live people. And they, unfortunately, in South Africa, we're dealing with a lot of dead people in the different cases. As you saw in those stats that I read to you, the percentage of finding a person alive and then finding them dead is a big difference. Your majority are found, unfortunately, of deaths.
Yes, and then of course it becomes a police problem because, as you say, this is unnatural death. which the court will have to decide what happened based on the evidence. And then from there on, it can become a murder investigation, or it can become a suicide or whatever. We don't know. At that stage, we simply don't know.
Yes. We to give you an example, in Zwelicha, just outside King Williamstown, we got a call of a person who was lost at a sort of a dammed up area of the river. And he came back home, and the little boy of 4 wasn't with him anymore. So when the family asked him, where is the child, he said, no, he's by the river. So we were called out by the local police, and they suspected that the child had fallen in and drowned in the river. So I searched, unfortunately for me, or fortunately for, it was the last case I worked with, my very first search and rescue dog. It was not long after that he became sick and ill, and he couldn't work anymore. That's why I remember it now. I started searching this dam in the river, this pooled area, and the dog showed me an area, and I felt with my foot, and I felt that there's something there, and I put my hand down and I grabbed hold of the little child, and I felt, but the child doesn't want to come, and it's quite heavy, you know. And I felt with my other hand, and then I found that the child had a wire around its stomach and attached to a big rock. So this guy had put the wire around the child, around the rock, and then thrown him in the river. So there again, you know, a normal drowning where you think you're just doing a body recovery of a child that had drowned in the thing, which is terrible, but this has now become, it's escalated to become a murder. That guy that was with him was the child's uncle, and he was actually declared mentally unfit. He couldn't stand trial. He was a mental patient. But that's how I wanted to use it. I wanted to use that as an example of how things can change from a normal drowning into a crime scene.
We're running out of time here because I have to explain to the viewer I'm recording here from the school because we're right in the middle between the Groot Trek from Swineland to Phuket. I'm very excited. I'm really looking forward to that. So we're going to have to ask you to come back, Warrant, at some stage for a third episode because I know you're not done. Like, so I started interrupting you with questions, but I want to ask you a last question. I've known some police divers in my time. They were a strange breed. And they told me a story. I want you to confirm or deny. They say if you dive down a dam wall, like a groot dam, you find the most horrific barbers. I don't know what's the word in English. Perhaps it is English already. Barbarel, or what do you call it? Catfish. Yeah. They say you find these things there, which is at least 15 feet long, lying there on the bottom at this where the wall is. Any truth in that, sir?
Look, I've known some of the guys to say that they've seen big fish, and they must have been diving in pretty clear water to see this fish first of all, and then you know, you get I've seen a 6-foot catfish or barbel, what they call them. So they get pretty big, and you get a big fright when that thing bumps against you, because they also in zero visibility. So, you know, they also inquisitive to see what's swimming around in here as well. There are big ones. I can't say 15 foot or big, but, you know, I suppose the diver's tail is like a fisherman's tail. They had a few meters or few feet on. Yeah. Oh.
I must say they were looking quite frightened when they came up from that water. They didn't just come up. They were sort of running on the water when they came up.
I know we're running out of time, but just a quick one. my brother was a diver in the Navy. And unfortunately for him, he was called out one Sunday. He was on standby, and he was called by the police to a golf club there in Cape Town. And someone had fallen in the dam on the golf course, and they asked him the Navy to dive because the police divers were busy somewhere else. And he dived down, and he was doing zero visibility with the rope on his one hand and feeling with the other hand, and he felt something and it bumped, and he was quite excited because now it's his first body ever. He's still under training, and he grabbed this thing and he popped up. I got him. And when he brought it up, it was a motorcar tire, you know. The tire was under the water. So yeah, there are some things that you can laugh about as well that happen.
Yeah, I once asked Frans Fourie, the 4 recce specialist, later commander of 1 recce. I asked him, what happens when you guys are diving and you're on your way to attack something and there comes a white death shark? What do you do? So we said that happens so often, it's just not funny, especially in the dark. Says that can be a big problem. But they either ignore each other or they just sit down. They say they actually sit down on the ocean bed and they wait for the sharks to go away. And if a fight breaks out, they say they will win that fight. No, I didn't ask you anything further.
Yeah, I'm sure they carry the necessary, it's like a stick with a cartridge on the end. It's like a shotgun stick that they push against the shark. I've seen that. I've read about that as well. I don't know if they did have that with them, I suppose. But I've also seen that where they do buddies, they go back to back and then they sit on the bottom. The one watches the one side and they can 180, they can see what's happening around. But that must be extra frightening, I think, at night, you know, when it's dark and things like that. Must be.
Yeah, I recall when I did my diving courses, our instructor had very good advice. You just stab your mate with your knife and he starts bleeding and then you swim away. That was his advice. He was a very strange fellow. He would say always things like, look, there might be the word rescue diver here on my t-shirt. I'm not rescuing you. You better pay attention, yeah. And we did. But I must say, we've come to the end of this one, but there will be another one. I have to ask you seriously, Warrant. You have to come back, please, and tell us more stories. I think this is excellent for the police. I'm sorry that we run out of time. It's here because we're giving classes. The class is going to start just now. And I am at the school, and then it will be a bit of a noise, and so you'll have to come back. It will probably be our presenter, Fossie. What did he say to me the other day? We called him a gunner because he was in Hello Freeze, 16 Squadron. He said to me something like, we're not gunners, we're flight engineers, we just shoot people. We double tap him and don't say that to me ever again. So now I've got a tip here for people. Don't call a flight engineer a gunner or a rescue swimmer or anything. You will get obnoxious. But one last question, Warren. If somebody gets lost, if somebody is walking, listening here, and you're walking in the veld or in the bush, or you get lost, what's the best thing to do? Is it just to stay there, or do you have to just carry on and get more lost?
That's a very good question. If you're able to retrack your steps, but if you realize you're lost, the best thing is to stay in one place. It's easier for us to find you. Also goes about who have you told where you're going to. Don't take a hike without telling anybody and what's your expected time of arrival. Because if you don't arrive there, then they know there's something wrong. They can give you an hour gap or whatever. I'd rather go out and arrive there and the guy comes out of the thing than to go and look for a guy that becomes a body or injured person. With that safe swim, there's another story called Hug a Tree that we do with children. It means holding on to a tree and staying in one place for safety. Of course, in Africa, you've got to be careful for lightning storms and things by hugging a tree and things like that. But it goes about staying in one place. and how to, prepare yourself, and the necessary stuff you have to take with you. Simple thing like a small fold-up black plastic bag, keeping your biking pants or whatever. If you do get lost and it gets cold, you just make a hole in the top and put it over your head, and you've got a plastic to keep you warm and keep you out of the rain. Right? And that's what we teach the kids. Also to carry a whistle with. If you're lost, and you can blow the whistle every now and again, somebody will hear you, especially if we're searching for you, then the dogs will hear you before we hear, and they will go to the whistle, find you. As I say, that was a program we do with the kids, and I used to demonstrate. I'll let a child run around on the field and go in the soccer field or the rugby field and hide behind the post and put his little plastic cover on, and he blow his whistle, and then I'll let the dog go, and the dog will go to him quickly and go and smell him and find him. And they can see that that's a way of surviving, or staying in one place.
Yeah. Well, I think you've just made yourself a 4th episode here, sir, because I'm going to ask you if you can reproduce us that speeches you make for the lions and places like that. Perhaps we can have a recording of such a speech just to give people the tips, and we can perhaps save a few lives.
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be great. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for the opportunity.